Back at WNST, get ready for April the 26th. We are spanning the globe to get everyone's opinion and everyone's mock draft throughout the country, as well as through the football circles that we have here locally. She keeps up with such things as these, and late for work in the morning as she's chasing 4 children under the age of 8. I remember when she just came to Baltimore to work for the Baltimore Ravens. She is late for work and did all things Man of the Crowd last year, a series you should still go listen to if you love the Harbaugh family or want some great stories there. We welcome Sarah Ellison back on. She is early for the show and never late for work at BaltimoreRavens.com, and SG Ellison out on Twitter. Plenty of conjecture for you every morning, as all you need to do is just span the globe to bring the mock drafts to everyone, and that makes for good morning fun for you, doesn't it?
It does. Everybody wants to know. I mean, everybody knows that the mock drafts are worthless, or practically worthless, but still it's so much fun to guess and try to predict things.
Well, I haven't done one in a long, long time. I used to do them back in the 90s in the early going, and now everybody else does them, and they start doing them a year ahead of time, and they have the 3.0 and the 4.0, and, NFL.com has 28 different people doing it. Part of this, though, is McGlinchey keeps popping up, right? That from a Ravens fan perspective, that and Ridley, when you do all the math and all the quarterbacks above and the more likely players, and I had to laugh that Eric DeCosta joked that if Saquon Barkley was there, he would take him, but he's not expecting them to be there at 16. So you can get some of those names off of there, but the names that have been thrown around, there aren't a whole lot of them for the Ravens at 16, are there?
You're definitely right. I think McGlinchey's one. I mean, it's not that difficult if you're, an analyst to say where the Ravens needs. You have wide receiver, you have pass-catching tight end, and you have right tackle if you're not a believer in Hurst as a long-term solution there. So that's where all the mock drafts are going. What I find interesting, and Nestor, you know Ozzie as well as anyone. I mean, you've been following him for years. He's not a guy that gives too many quotes. He's the type of guy that when he gives an interview, he wants to give you as few quotes as possible. He just wants to get done. He's about football, right? So when he said that he might surprise people with his number 16 pick, if he picks at number 16, that's Ozzie adding some intrigue. So you think outside the box from right tackle or receiver or tight end. I mean, could they bring in a quarterback? Could they bring in a defensive player? They're stacked at safety, but there could be some safeties that fall. I thought that was a very, very interesting quote, and I think more than anything, it gives me the feeling that the Ravens are wide open for business. They can move up or back, but something tells me that, in a value draft like this, let's trade back, let's pick up an extra pick, and then still get a value pick that you would have gotten at 16, say in the low to mid-20s.
Yeah, when Ozzie starts threatening to trade, he doesn't need to threaten to trade for me to know that he feels there's value in there at that point. And also, if there are some of those players that they like who would still be there at 23, 27, 30, whatever, they're always about getting the player they like. And I think in this particular draft that there's not this great depth like there was at wide receiver, like there was that huge run last year, or even at the quarterback position where there's going to be 4, maybe 5 guys taken off the draft board in the first round. And a lot of that may affect the Ravens in the middle of this thing from a trade aspect back or otherwise. But I don't see lots and lots of positions here. It feels like there's one guy at a bunch of different positions. And if there's one guy that the Ravens like who's a tight end or a center or even a tackle that's not McGlinchey, and I've seen him getting mocked off the board now up in the top 10. I saw that, I think, who was it? It was Gil Brandt that said he's going to be a top 10 pick as well, that he might not even make it there.
The Monday morning quarterback, you said that. You're right.
Yeah, well, you're right late for work. That's why I follow you, because you're reading all of this stuff, Sarah. But, if McGlinchey's gone and that was their guy and he's not there, I have no doubt that Ozzie's going to have a plan to be able to back up. And I keep hearing about the Cowboys wanting to come up to get Ridley, too.
Well, and that's the thing is it all has to do with, it's like you said, if they like a guy, what if there are a lot of guys that have about the same grade, right? Because what we keep hearing is that this year's draft is not full of top-end elite guys, but it's stacked with starters, with solid starters. So if you're at number 16 and all the guys that you love are gone in this scenario, and then you have about, 10 guys that are all about the same grade, that you're like, you know what, I would take any one of these guys, and if I can get any one of them at 16 and can get any one of them still at 24, of course you would want to trade back. So what the question is there somebody that will still be available at 16 that somebody else is going to want to come up and get? And so, you find out, the Patriots suddenly have 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. And, they're nearing the end of the road with Tom Brady. So this is a class that has, according to Eric DaCosta, 8 or 9 guys that could be 8 or 9 quarterbacks that could be starters by the end of their rookie year, or their rookie contracts, excuse me. So if you're the Patriots, why not move up to number 16 to get your franchise quarterback or somebody else like that? So it's all in the way that the board falls. You can't predict the first 15 picks. But to me, with the makeup of the draft being few top-end guys and a bunch of solid starters throughout, then that means that a lot of these guys could have similar grades, so it makes sense to trade back.
Well, the Baker Mayfields and the Lamar Jacksons and the quarterbacks, whether that top class is 3 or 4 or 5 that are off the board, getting up into 15 and 16 when Arizona comes on the board, and then there's other names where the Minkah Fitzpatricks, the Saquon Barkleys, obviously Bradley Chubb, Quentin Nelson. None of those guys are going to be there. I don't think Denzel Ward's going to be there either. So you start to take the first dozen off the board, and then on most of these mocks, and I know again, Sarah, you're the one writing about this and following this maybe as much as anybody in our marketplace day by day. The bottom 15, the bottom 10, let's say 20 to 32 in most of the mocks, they look like a whole bunch of different players. These names only come off one at a time. So to my way of thinking, that 15 to 60, those 40, 45 players that are there, I've never seen Colton Miller. I've seen him in the teens. I've seen him at the end of the second round. Hayden Hurst. I've seen him late first round. I've seen him late second round. It's a very, very wild mix of players. And to your point, if there's 3 or 4 of those guys you like as players that need positions you have, as long as you can get them somewhere, you really don't care where you get them in the draft.
Oh, absolutely. And the only way, like you said, the Bradley Chubbs, the Saquon they're not going to fall to 16. But what could happen, again, depending on this quarterback market, which we've already seen, it's already been an intriguing offseason because of trades to get up to get quarterbacks. So it's not even drafted yet. You kind of already get this sense of urgency for people to move up to get these quarterbacks. Well, the more that's taken before 16, the better. Because then, okay, maybe Bradley Chubb might not fall, but Derwin James could. And while that's not a need that you have right now at safety, the Ravens are pumping a lot of money into the safety position, and Eric Weddle's getting older. So now you're talking about a guy that is top 10 talent that maybe drops to 16 because of the quarterback market. So, either way, I don't feel like the Ravens can lose, because if all the quarterbacks start going before they're up, then some sort of elite player could slide.
Sarah Ellison covers all things Ravens at Ravens.com, Faith Family Football, and the Ravens editor. You can find her out on Twitter, SG Ellison, when she is not chasing a bunch of little BYU former or future starters, right? For sure. 4 children under the age of 8, and you still have time for late for work. So, I remember we were all just young and bored. Remember that, Sarah?
I don't remember it. That's the sad thing. It was 9 years ago. And I'm trying to remember. It's just a foggy blur to me at this point, Nestor.
Off season here for all the other teams and things that have happened. It really is strange in this franchise. We've never had the kind of money to go be a player in free agency. Never had to. The Crabtree thing was fascinating to me, given where they were with the kid from the Redskins and bringing in John Brown and being able to pull that off. I'm buying what they're selling me with Crabtree. To me, that may not sound like the biggest name till you go back and see the 85 balls he caught 2 years ago and 3 years ago and understand what happened in Oakland this year, to see that he could come in and find a little rebirth here. And, I think John had great intel from his brother as well. I know I talked to him at the owners' meetings 2 weeks ago down in Orlando. But, I'm buying the Crabtree thing, and everyone that I've talked to outside of the market said, yeah, I think the Ravens wide receiver room got better so far, and we haven't even gotten to the draft yet.
Yeah, listen, Crabtree fulfills the role that Macklin had. Do I think that Macklin to Crabtree is an upgrade? Absolutely. Things have to play out. We'll have to see what happens. But it's hard to not say that. And then so Smokey Brown is more the replacement of Mike Wallace in terms of his speed and, getting out there and doing the Mike Wallace type work. I think there's no question that the Ravens are doing the right thing in terms of starting over at the wide receiver position. You had the number 29 passing offense last year. That's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. And I think that they're showing that they know that. So they're starting clean. And I think, and I am buying Crabtree. I think where I'm buying him in terms of veterans being out there at the same time. And I know that the Ravens want to do this. You have to get younger because this is what the Ravens continually find themselves in this spot, right? Where they find, Steve Smith, and that was great for 3 years. And Anquan Boldin for a couple of years. At some point, you want to get younger and you want to build from within. Ravens try to do that with Brashad Perriman. Technically, that dream isn't over because he has this summer to try to prove it, but it seems like a long shot at this point. So I think that if anybody was disappointed in Crabtree, it would be more because the Ravens didn't go out and land a Landry or an Allen Robinson, who are younger guys and are not, on the back nine of their career. So, but the Ravens never realistically had that money. They certainly, based off of reports, they certainly tried. They were in on just about everybody, got outbid. They just don't have the money. So the only real place that the Ravens can try to start over and get a young player rather than a Band-Aid fix is through the draft. And so, there's going to be a lot of options. There's not a top 10 elite receiver in this year's draft. But from what it sounds like, from the later round of the first round, the second round and the third round, there's going to be a lot to choose from. And if the Ravens can land it, that is how they get better at the wide receiver position. They have to nail when they draft wide receivers.
Sarah, much like you're a homer for BYU, I'm a homer for the Terps from time to time, but the DJ Moore story gets thicker and thicker, right? Like the fact that he has moved up the board in some mocks into the middle, he's moved even to the Cardinals. I've seen him mocked ahead of the Ravens pick. And another guy that did it with a bunch of different quarterbacks, and every time his name gets brought up by any of the pundits, it's always a very, very glowing remarks in regard to DJ Moore, that he's now sort of moved his way up into that conversation with maybe a Courtland Sutton as well as Calvin Ridley. But I know when I went to the Combine a month and a half ago now, it was all Ridley and nobody else at that point. I think we've changed our minds on some of these wide receivers.
It's so funny how, because we can speculate on the draft for so long, it really is just kind of funny to me that if heading into the Combine, if somebody said Ridley would be there at number 16, at the time, people were like, you're crazy. No way Ridley is going to make it to number 16. Now, not only do people say that Ridley can make it to 16, but they say that he could even make it past the Ravens. And so now it's almost like Ridley isn't good enough for, the Baltimore fan base at this point.
Well, this happened with O.J. Howard last year, right? O.J. Howard was a guy that was going to be gone by the time the Ravens got there. They got there, he was there, and they left him there, right? And now they go into a draft, no disrespect to Marlon Humphrey, but that becomes a need again this year where you're talking about a tight end or a wide receiver, wishing there was an O.J. Howard kind of guy there, and there isn't, right?
Sure, and at the same time, though, if they didn't draft Marlon Humphrey, they'd have a big need at cornerback again.
No doubt about it.
You can play it either way. The Ravens now can feel good at corner with Jimmy Smith rehabbing his Achilles, and then you've got who am I forgetting? Brandon on the other side. He's a little bit older, but you feel more solid. So if it wasn't tight end that you'd be feeling nervous about, it would be cornerback right now. So either or. But going back to Maryland and DJ Moore, I mean, it was, you brought up Gil Brandt. I think it was first him that was like, hey, DJ Moore could, when all is said and done, he could be the best receiver in this draft. And you kind of look at it and you wonder to yourself, what if DJ Moore and Ridley's situations were flipped? Would Ridley have been as productive at Maryland with that many quarterback changes, 3 different quarterbacks his senior year? And what would DJ Moore have done with a stud Alabama system? And would he have put up more? So it'll be interesting. From what I understand, their draft grades are very close. I think people still give the edge to Ridley. I think what puts him over the top is his route running. DJ Moore, what his strengths are just his toughness, making yards after the catch. So we'll find out when all is said and done which one's the better NFL receiver. But if we're talking right now, they have very similar grades. And from what I gather, Ridley has the edge.
She is Sarah Ellison. You can follow her journey at SG Ellison out on Twitter, as well as Late for Work. She authors it in the mornings at BaltimoreRavens.com. All of our WNST programming brought to you by our friends at Royal Farms. Real fresh, real fast, the tasty coffee, the best fried chicken in the land. Justin Tucker vouches for it. You can download the app. Make sure you're using that with your gas, and it will save you dough. Maybe get you some free Western fries. Rofo, real fresh, real fast. Also brought to you by the Maryland Jockey Club. You can cure your winter blues and get on down to Laurel this weekend or any weekend heading into Triple Crown season. We're going down to Laurel for the Derby, and of course, we'll be at it. Hi ho, Pimlico. Third weekend of May, we got the Black-Eyed Susie and the Pink that weekend. All the entries now in the morning newspaper. That's brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, as well as on the front of our website at WNST.net. Crab cakes, crabs, pit beef, and ice cold beer, good enough for the Today Show and my mom. Costas Inn, the fat crabs, the cold beer, the legend continues. Get on down to North Point Boulevard. See our friends at Costas Inn on the road to Sparrows Point. My dad stopped in there many a time on the way back from the point. Sarah Ellison here, talking some football and getting us ready for the draft a couple of weeks out. You know, not lost through all of this thing is my body clock, now 22, 23 years into this thing. I'm waiting on this schedule, Sarah. You know, I mean, I need to know when we're going to Los Angeles and playing the San Diego Chargers. I need to know we're going to Atlanta and Charlotte, and Luke's got barbecue already on his mind in Kansas City. So we got a heck of a year here, and I know the schedule is always a big deal in your castle as well out there in Owings Mills.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is they don't really, you'd think that the NFL would share with teams ahead of time when those schedules are coming, but we don't quite know either, and I'm sure they just don't want any leaks getting out there, but I'm ready for it, too. It usually comes a week or two before the draft, and then the preseason schedule even a bit before that. And the Ravens have a little bit more intrigue this year with the Hall of Fame game, so we're waiting for that.
Yeah, all we need is more preseason football, right? I mean, that's delightful.
Of course, that's just what everybody's waiting for. That's what it's all about.
You know, around the league, we talk about the Rams and the Eagles improving their team. I think it's really a fascinating thing that Nick Foles won the Super Bowl the way he did, because I think it opens up the conversation about a lot of different quarterbacks and backup quarterbacks, and certainly here, the RG3 thing, and I had to laugh. Ozzie dropped that on us in the middle of the Liars Luncheon, and I got to tell Ozzie, next time I see him, you're not supposed to tell the truth during the Liars Luncheon. Don't be bringing news into the Liars Luncheon and dropping that at the beginning of the thing and making everybody scramble. But the RG3 thing, I thought that the fan base, probably too much reaction to it, quite frankly. And I think they're going to come back with another quarterback here from the draft in a couple of weeks. I think they'll add someone into the room in addition to RG3. But, you know, the quarterback story and the moving parts of Tyrod now in Cleveland, and we're going to see him a couple of times this year. The quarterbacks moving around and where they land, that a guy of RG3's pedigree and caliber would be the backup here.
Yeah, I agree with you that, you said you maybe reacted a little too much. I definitely think there's an overreaction. I think that, with RG3, Ryan Mallett is out. He's not coming back. And Nestor, you were at training camp.
Yes.
I don't think that.
I came closer to catching some of the passes on the sideline than Perryman did. Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to disparage him too much, but I saw some people saying, "Oh, I'd rather bring back Ryan Mallett," and I was like, "Oh, well, you just weren't at training camp. It didn't inspire a lot of confidence.
Accuracy was not his calling card.
No, it was not it. And so I agree with you. I don't think that the RG3 changes any draft plans. I think that, listen, I think it's a fine signing because what's the downside really? What's the downside? You have a very small investment. He's not guaranteed to make the team, but he's hungry. And he's a former number 2 overall pick. And so to me, it's like a lottery ticket. I mean, you have a guy that has huge upside. And if he can stay healthy, I know he needs to improve reading coverages. And so you bring him in. He's been out of the league for a year. And let's see what this guy can do. He is hungry, hungry, hungry. We have to have camp bodies anyway. We have to have camp arms anyway. So why not give it to a guy that has has at least started some NFL games, and let's throw him in the fire and see what he can do. I don't think he's going to push Joe Flacco for the starting role, but he's going to be in competition for that backup role, especially if the Ravens draft a quarterback, which I expect them to do. I don't know that they'll do it at number 16. I mean, that's possible, but I think, within the first 3 or 4 rounds.
It's crazy going back to that game, though, right? I mean, we played them. He gets injured at Lodinata. We win the Super Bowl. Cousins takes the job, becomes the next guy, goes and gets $84 million in Minnesota, and here's RG3 backing up Joe Flacco and taking a bunch of grief.
I know.
I mean, football's not fair, Sarah. We know this, right? It's just not.
Oh, it's not fair at all. But I mean, I just think it's a fine signing. I mean, I just think that you can't get excited about it and you can't poo-poo it either. You just put it out there and see what happens.
All right. Well, listen, we'll be following Late for Work as you mock all the mock drafts and get us ready for the schedule. And everybody's buttoning up their chin strap here, getting ready for football season. We're all excited about it. And hopefully improvement throughout the franchise is what all of our hopes are. So, Sarah, take care of yourself. We'll check in again soon here, maybe next month after when we get out for a little OTA and throw the football around a little bit.
Sounds good, Nestor. Talk to you later.
Sarah Ellison, one of my favorites. She is Late for Work out on Twitter. And if you have not checked out her and go to the vault and find it out there at Ravens.com, the Man of the Crowd series, phenomenal stuff last year. Go check that out at BaltimoreRavens.com. She is also SG Ellison out on Twitter and a proud BYU alum, as she always points out. You can find me out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Our community and charity series brought to you by our friends at Howard Bank, a relentless commitment to being the best at everything they do. Branches now throughout Baltimore and Maryland. Also brought to you by our friends at Cole Roofing. Billy Cole will be here later on in the week arguing sports with me, but he takes care of commercial and corporate roof spaces. That wind that came through last month, the rain, sometimes it creates some damage that you don't feel till later on when the sun takes a go at your roof on a 100-degree day. Get Cole Roofing out to give a little inspection. Make sure your roof is in summer shape. They've also got Pfister Energy to create money-making opportunities and solar on your roof space. Use it for more than just a roof. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm out on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. Probably should have told Sarah about this because she's got 4 little ones. If you have little ones out there and you want to take them to a great show, the Modell Lyric is our partner here. They have the Wild Krat Show. This is a PBS show created by a couple of zoologists. A lot of educational value in it. The Wild Krat's 4:30 show. There are some seats this week at the Modell Lyric. You can learn more about all they do at modell-lyric.com. We'll be telling you about Britt Floyd and Jackson Brown and Kansas and Steely Dan and all the other great stuff that's coming up down there. Hopefully I'll be interviewing some of the bands as well as I mix some music into the mix of what we do around here. Here's my little that was my little nod to the Greaseman. Any of you were Greaseman people, so send me a note if you got that one. Nasty at WNST.net. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.